providing resources and comfort to caregivers. This is Caregiver Crossing.
Hey there. Welcome to Caregiver Crossing. Thanks for being here with us. If this is your first time joining us, Caregiver Crossing is a show brought to you by Joy's House, presented in partnership with Cardon and Associates. And we're here every week to discuss all things caregiving. So normally this is a time when I would be saying, I'm Tina McIntosh, and then we'd have Terry Stacy and Candace Haddabaugh. But if you are with us every weekend, you know that Candace has up and moved to Florida, and we're devastated. And Terry's not here yet. So you are stuck with me and a special guest. So last week we said goodbye to Candace Haddabaugh, and we were tearful, and it was full of love. And this week my guest is
Candace Haddabaugh.
We made her stick around for one more week. And so we're going to take every bit of advantage of her as we can here because we love her so much. Candace, there is a quote when we talk about caregiving, there is a quote that we hear all the time by a famous woman. Does anything come to mind when I say that? Rosalind Carter.
Okay.
It is the quote that in our industry, because we are at Joy's House, we're actually in the Joy's House studio right now. It is, there are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. So let that sink in for a minute. 4 kinds of people: those who've been caregivers, currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. And some of us are probably fall into more than one category.
I'm sure.
I know it's used a lot in our industry, but it really does kind of set the stage. And she said that, I don't even know what year, but it's been a minute. So even more caregivers nowadays. But go ahead. You had a thought?
Well, no, I was just thinking, because I was talking to one of our coworkers here, I guess it's been a couple weeks ago now, about the Rosalind Carter Institute and everything that they're doing for caregivers. So it doesn't surprise me that she said that so many years ago.
Mm-hmm. And there's another quote that I found that I really, really liked, and it is, kindness can transform. Let's try that again. I will not stumble over my words. Kindness can transform someone's dark moment with a blaze of light. You'll never know how much your caring matters. And that made me think of you. In the fact that you stuck around for another week, but just all of our life together, you know, you never know those moments of kindness that make a difference. And so I know, Candace, you've seen a lot of people doing a lot of kind things over time. Is there anything that sticks out? And while you're thinking, anything that sticks out for you, I think about all the little kindnesses I see here at Joy's House, the hugs for the caregivers, the times that we stop everything we're doing and that we're present and listen, or the guests who are our clients here at Joy's House, and how they might not remember each other's names, but it's the way somebody reaches over and grabs somebody's hand, or looks out for somebody, or lights up when they see someone they recognize as a friend walk in the room. Anything come to mind for you?
I just think about the storm that we had a few weeks ago, and how you came in and said, I met a gentleman on the corner.
Carl. His name's Carl.
And if he knocks on the door and is needing to seek shelter during the storm, don't be surprised. I invited him to come over. And I think that speaks volumes to who Joy's House is and who you are as a person. Just very kind and welcoming and supportive to everyone.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Aw, don't leave. Candace is going to stick around. She is going to close out the show. And I think Terry is like, you know, the sound of Santa landing on a roof with the horse,
the jingle bells.
Horse. What are they? Reindeer hooves. Yeah. And the bells. That's Terry Stacy in our world. And I swear I just heard her pull up. Like I can hear her little, jingle bells as she comes in. But she is getting ready to have a very interesting conversation. I have every confidence. It is an independent film, I believe. I didn't get to see it when it was out, and I've tried to find it. I think you maybe have to buy it, but I've heard it's worth it. It is the Wine, Women, and Dementia.
Yes.
And I'm very, very interested to hear her interview with the creator of that.
Yep. We'll be hearing that next.
And then you have?
I have Stasia Demos Mills at the bottom of the show. We're going to talk conservatorship, guardianship, as it's known in some states, for when that time comes. And your loved ones need someone to make decisions for them.
Okay, well, that's really important, but it does not sound as exciting as Terry's interview.
Terry's going to have so much more fun.
So, all right, stick around. Terry is coming down the hall here, and we're going to go ahead and let her jump in and get started.
Welcome back to Caregiver Crossing. Terry Stacy along with Tina McIntosh. I had an opportunity to talk to Kitty Norton. She's the director of an award-winning documentary titled Wine, Women, and Dementia. And it's her first feature film to honor the journey that she had with her mom and to celebrate family caregivers. She left a job with NBC in LA to go home and care for her mom, who was diagnosed with a dementia. The first question I asked her was about the kind of care her mom needed when she began the journey.
So Mom was diagnosed in 2010 with vascular dementia, and my father had decided he was going to be her primary caregiver, which is why I had the opportunity to go to LA and try and work on my post-production career. But my father died suddenly from pancreatic cancer. It was 3 weeks from diagnosis to death. So while I had been coming home during that 6-year period that Dad was Mom's primary caregiver and staying in touch with where Mom was with her progression, once we were literally, my sister and I were thrown into figuring out how to help Mom, it was clear she couldn't live on her own anymore. She still had independence, like she could walk outside and we didn't worry that we'd never see her again, or still able to take her to my Aunt Jenny's, which is her oldest sister, and she would stay overnight. The verbal acuity was diminishing fairly rapidly, but we probably still had at least a good year after we took over that she was able to express herself mostly. But yeah, mostly it was just like, okay, Mom can't live on her own. What are we going to do? And that's when I decided my boyfriend and I would come back home. Mom and Dad had a split level, so it was very easy for us to kind of just slide into the basement and be here full time. And then my sister, who runs a destination restaurant on the Oregon coast, her days off from the restaurant, she would come here and stay 24/7 for 2 or 3 days and take her days so that I would have some break.
We hear from caregivers the words overwhelming, scared, tired, alone. You too?
Absolutely. And even though I had my sister and I were sharing this, it was, especially in 2016, it still wasn't very talked about, if at all. The medical community has nothing to tell you. So you're like, well, if they can't even give me some answers, I'm sure nobody else knows what's going on. They're supposedly the experts. So yeah, it was overwhelming. It was isolating. It was exhausting. Yeah. Especially because I'm a night person and Mom would get up at 6 in the morning. I'm like, oh, I'm like, kill that old woman if she doesn't go back to bed.
You're listening to Caregiver Crossing, and this is a show designed for family caregivers and the people who love them. Caregiver Crossing, we're very blessed, is brought to you as a service of Joy's House, Adult Day and Caregiver Support and Education, in partnership with Cardon and Associates. And so with locations in Broad Ripple and near the University of Indianapolis campus, Joy's House provides exceptional day services for individuals living with life-altering diagnoses and compassionate support for family caregivers throughout the community. So here at Joy's House, we believe that everyone deserves to live their best life, regardless of their abilities. And we'd like you to learn more. So about our Adult Day and our caregiver support services, you can call us at 317-254-0828 or by visiting joyshouse.org today. That web address again is joyshouse.org. Stick around. We'll be back in just a moment with more Caregiver Crossing right after this.
Kitty Norton is with us. You began writing a blog that became wildly popular among caregivers called Stumped Town Dementia. Was it just as therapeutic for you as it was for your readers?
I needed something creative. I'd always been, in my career, I'd always been in some kind of creative endeavor. I worked in nonprofit theaters for a long time. Then I went to post-production. So I was the support, once production is done on a story to help get the story put together and out into the world. I needed something still creative. And I started writing in 2017. So I'd gone about a year without having anything really I could just focus on. And then I just realized, my sister's here 2 or 3 times a week just go downstairs and write this out, make your little images and tell this story from our perspective. So it was extremely therapeutic. I don't know how therapeutic it was for the readers, but I certainly got a lot of benefit out of it. I didn't write about the latest research. I didn't write about, what the professionals are saying now. I literally wrote stories about our lives in this journey. And some of them were hilarious and some of them were heartbreaking. And it was how I was feeling and it was how I was able to process what I was going through. I don't know what I would have done without it. I probably wouldn't have made it through the whole journey, frankly.
Oh my gosh, it had to be of value to readers with not so many resources available back then. It had to be comforting to know that they weren't alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the comments I would get, especially because humor was so much a part of our journey, was get comments like, oh, my gosh, I laughed through this whole post. And my mom's done the same thing, or my husband also, crazy stuff is happening. And I'm so glad somebody's making light of it so that I can make light of it so that I can be a better caregiver so I don't lose my mind every time something wacky dementia-wise happened, and they helped me too.
Kitty Norton is here. She's the director of Wine, Women, and Dementia. Your mom passed away in March of 2021. Why did you want to do this documentary?
First, it started as there were 5 caregivers that I connected to through the blog that became very important to me. Everybody was important to me, all of my readers, but these 5, for some reason, we virtually really connected, and we had created these friendships, even if it was just through email or there was a couple of them that I would Zoom with every once in a while or phone call. So even before Mom died, I thought, when this is over, I want to go meet these people in person. I want to bring a bottle of wine and sit outside of their house and just talk caregiver smack and just, enjoy our time together and thank them for what they've done for me. And as I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe these conversations might be really helpful for other caregivers. And that's how it morphed into a documentary. And once I was headed down that path, I knew that I was so tired of the media never really focusing on the other half of the equation in this journey, which is the caregiver side of the story. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want caregivers to see that they are not alone, that their stories matter, and that they are worthy of being seen and heard. I wanted to celebrate them. That was really the focus.
Terry Stacy, along with Tina McIntosh. We're talking to Kitty Norton, the director of award-winning documentary Wine, Women, and Dementia. Kitty was a caregiver for her mom. And Kitty, you wanted to honor the journey you had with her, but it's also a celebration of family caregivers. Tell us about this film.
Well, it turned into not just a bunch of talking heads caregivers talking about our dementia journey, but it also turned into a road trip. I initially did not envision myself in this film at all, and I did envision it just as talking heads caregivers, but I had a really good post-production team that was kind of like, might not be so entertaining. So they used a lot of our road trip. My friend Beth came up from California to travel around the country with me. It's not just us talking, it's me processing, it's me escaping, it's me kind of finding myself again, even though that's an ongoing process. And it's living life. It's a lot about, it focuses a lot on what the dementia journey was for me altogether. It was, this is Mom's end of life. Let's focus on the word life. And let's see how much life we can give her. And that's really a lot of what the film is about, because that's what all 5 of these people I went to visit, why we connected, is we were tired of the stigma of dementia. We were tired of the continuous tragedy narrative. It wasn't helpful. It was making us worse as caregivers. It wasn't until all of us separately decided that life was the most important part of this journey that we became better at what we were doing. It never made it easier. This is not an easy journey by any means, but to be able to find the laughter in some of the really absurd stuff that comes with dementia, to feel joy from its sorrow and to be proud of the strength and the courage that we found in ourselves to stick with our people.
You also talk about awareness. What do you want us to know about family caregivers?
I want people to know that while this is one of the toughest things you'll ever do, and any terminal illness, if you're helping someone you love to the end, it's really hard, but it's also life. Life was never meant to be perfect and joyous all the time, but when you can find the perfect moments and the joyous moments in something that is breaking your heart, that's a lot. That's a lot to be proud of. that you did this, that your person who moved on did this, that you guys found love in what is just a really tough thing to go through.
You must be so proud of this film. The documentary has been seen here at the Heartland Film Festival last fall, as well as other film festivals around the country. I know you get to meet the audience. What do people tell you about the film?
Oh, my favorite part about showing the film, about the screenings, is the post-screening conversations. And I knew what I was hoping for the film, and I knew how I hoped people would take it. It has gone beyond my wildest dreams. There are some discussions that are so powerful and often really overwhelming, because there's a lot of emotions that as soon as the film ends come barreling at me, that people are so grateful they finally see themselves in the narrative. They aren't the ones on screen, but those are their stories. And for the first time, they understand that those stories are important and that they are not alone, that there are other people throughout the world living their lives in different iterations, different circumstances, but we're all having very, very similar experiences, feelings. Our dementia people, well, it's true, every dementia person is different, but there's a lot of commonalities that nobody tells you about in this journey. And they see other caregivers like, wow, I thought my mom was the only one who did that. Turns out, right. That's very common. I've had responses. People are often surprised that there's so many laughs in the film, and they leave with kind of a newfound permission in themselves to embrace some of this stuff that dementia throws at us and our dementia person. And they seem determined to create more fun or to just be more lighthearted about it instead of taking it so hard. People recognize the community theme in the film. Like we created our own community because the community didn't exist. And that inspires them to lessen the isolation in their own journey. But I have to tell you, my favorite response so far came via email yesterday, and it was simply, "You made a hell of a powerful tool for change." Wow. And I was like, wow, I almost started crying. I was like, I was trying to do that. Thank you for letting me know that I succeeded, at least with you.
Oh my gosh. Kitty Norton is here, winewomenanddementia.com. You tell us to take action.
Boy, just like some of the things that the film inspires, to find your people. If you don't have them right now, they're out there. Find them elsewhere. To not embrace that isolation or not get stuck in it. To take action for the film, like follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, go to winewomenanddementia.com and sign up for our newsletter. We've got so many things coming up, and the newsletter is where you will hear about it first. Like we're having a virtual Mother's Day weekend screening Saturday, May 11th and Sunday, May 12th, and the film's going to be available to stream for anyone, and you can reserve a free Be Our Guest ticket, or if you are able to support the film, you can purchase the ticket at a price that, a suggested donation price, and that helps me pay for the platforms that we're streaming on. It helps me continue to travel around the country and get the film out there. It's going to help. We're going to do a multinational caregiver summit in September that really focuses on us as the caregivers and our stories. If you can purchase a ticket, it's all going for a very good cause to continue to get this film out there and to free us from the isolation and loneliness and the feeling that we don't matter.
Kitty Norton, the director of the award-winning documentary Wine, Women, and Dementia. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Caregiver Crossing. This is Candace Hattabaugh in studio with Terry Stacy and Tina McIntosh. You may have heard in the news in the last couple of weeks that Jay Leno has filed for guardianship of his wife, Mavis, who was diagnosed with dementia a couple years ago, I believe. So I thought it'd be a perfect time for us to tap our dear friend, Stasia Demos Mills, elder law attorney here locally in Indianapolis, to walk us through what that means. We call it guardianship here, but I believe in other states they call it other things. Stasia, thank you so much for joining us here today. How are you, first of all? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Candace, I'm really well. Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm really well. And I'm always happy to join you. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so tell us what guardianship is. Let's start there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think you briefly referenced it in the intro, but guardianship and conservatorship are interchangeable terms depending on where you live in the U.S. So some states might refer to it as a conservatorship, but here in Indiana, we typically refer to it as a guardianship. And so a guardian is a person who is legally authorized to make care decisions, place of living decisions for a protected individual, depending on the type of guardianship that is issued. They also might be authorized to manage the finances of the person, depending, again, on the type of guardianship order that is issued. There are two types in Indiana: guardianship over the person, which allows the guardian to make decisions with respect to care, place of living, medical treatment, and then guardianship over the estate or property, which allows them to help manage a person's financial world.
So is this mainly for an elderly individual that we're talking guardianship, or could it also be for a younger adult child, possibly?
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be both. So in Indiana, the age of majority is 18 years old. So for parents who have young adult kids that turn 18 with special needs, a guardianship may or may not be an appropriate option for them, but sometimes it is. And it can be a little bit frustrating for parents of young adults with special needs because the guardianship may be required to legally authorize them to continue doing all the stuff that they were doing previously, right? And then it can also sometimes become a legal necessity for elders who don't otherwise have planning documents in place or whose mental capacity has diminished to the point where a guardianship is appropriate. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all proposition.
Okay.
And so we definitely assess it on a case-by-case basis because for some folks, they still have the capacity to make limited decisions that are safe and appropriate for themselves. And we want to preserve that dignity and that autonomy as best we can.
Yes, absolutely. Stasia, can you outline the process of getting involved with setting up guardianship for, let's talk specifically about an elderly person, including the necessary legal steps and documentation?
Yeah, definitely. I will tell you that the fun part about practicing in this area is that there are, dozens of counties in Indiana, and each county is slightly different. So take this information with a grain of salt because each county has local rules and has little special things that they want. But in general, the way that a guardianship proceeding is initiated is that an attorney who's working with an individual's family will draft something called a guardianship petition. And that's a fancy way of saying a request to a court that sets forth information about we call the person who may be in need of a guardianship, the protected person or the alleged incapacitated person, which is not the most sensitive language, but that's typically the language that shows up in guardianship documents. So a guardianship petition is filed along with a document called a physician's report. And that report is a key piece of information. It's completed specifically by a doctor licensed to practice in the state of Indiana and has to be based on an examination conducted with that person within a certain period of time. And that physician's report is evidence that the court will consider as to whether a person might be a suitable candidate for a guardianship. So that's a very key piece of information and can be challenging to get depending on the circumstance. So petitions filed, physician's report accompanies it. Certain family members are required to be given legal notice of the proceedings so that they can either consent to it or appear and provide further information or even possibly contest it, which nobody is hoping for, but can happen. And then there are several documents that guardians do have to file in the interim. I won't go into too many of the details, but they are required to sign instructions verifying that they understand that they have a duty to do certain things. And then the guardianship hearing itself can be conducted in a few different ways depending on the case. It can either happen in person at a local courthouse, or in Marion County, sometimes they will conduct them virtually now, depending on the circumstances, but that sometimes is easier for families to manage. If the vulnerable person needing guardianship it's not safe for them to attend a guardianship proceeding in person, then in the physician's report, that can be stated that it's not in their best interest to attend in person. So then at that hearing, it's usually pretty short, unless, of course, it's a contested matter, and that can be very different. But a uncontested guardianship proceeding is short, and then at the conclusion of it, the judge issues an order appointing guardian over the individual, over either their healthcare decisions and living arrangements and or their finances as well. It could be one, it could be both. And then once that order is issued, the court also issues something called letters of guardianship, which is a document that can be shown to schools, medical providers, healthcare facilities to verify that the guardian has the authority to act. And that was a lot, I know, but that's
no, that's okay. I think I'm tracking.
Flyover.
And
yeah,
is it?
I'll take a breath.
Is that typically something, as long as it's not contested, happens pretty quickly, like maybe even that same day?
As far as the hearing and the order.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. It depends on the judge in the court. They oftentimes will have the hearing and then issue the order either later that day or within the next several days. So it's typically not a longer process once the hearing is conducted, again, unless it's contested. And then the order is typically issued pretty quickly, depending on what court you're in and the alignment of the planet.
And what if we don't have any children or a family member, and maybe I'm a neighbor that's checking in on my senior neighbor, and I'm worried about their diminishing mental capacity? Can I step in and apply for guardianship?
You absolutely can, of course, with the understanding that it's a significant role and responsibility to assume for someone. Yet that's what love looks like sometimes. That's what care looks like sometimes. But yes, you certainly can do that. And in that case, I certainly recommend the guidance of counsel to talk you through what the implications of that might be. I also recommend that that person first determine whether or not the vulnerable individual for whom they're concerned might have estate planning documents out there, like a power of attorney or a healthcare directive that has already indicated who they want to do those things for them in the event that they're not able to manage their own affairs. That's a really important piece.
Okay. And let's talk about that when we come back. Stasia, how can people reach you if they want more information on this process?
Sure. Yeah, you can always contact us through our website, and that's at www.demosmills.com. Did I say that right? demosmillslaw.com. Sorry.
That's okay. All right. We have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Caregiver Crossing, a show designed for family caregivers and the people who love them. Caregiver Crossing is brought to you weekly by Joyce House in partnership with Cardon and Associates. We're here each week to bring you support, education, and hopefully a good laugh. Visit caregivercrossingradio.org to connect with us, hear past episodes, learn more about caregiver support resources in the community, and so much more. That website again is caregivercrossingradio.org. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Stasia right after the break. Welcome back to Caregiver Crossing. This is Candace Haddabaugh in studio with Tina McIntosh and Terry Stacy. We've got a few more minutes here, and Stasia Demos Mills decided she was going to stick around with us. Stasia, go ahead and give us your website one more time.
Sure. Yeah. Our website is demosmillslaw.com. That's DEMOSMILLSLAW.com.
Thank you. Stasia was, before the break, telling us about the importance of conservatorship and guardianship, and making sure that we know the importance of what that means. So, Stasia, let's dive into that. What are the key responsibilities of guardianship, and how is that typically managed within the boundaries of the law?
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody that didn't catch the first segment, important thing for you to know is that in Indiana, a conservatorship is typically referred to as a guardianship. In other parts of the country, it might just be called a conservatorship. So just know that those are interchangeable terms. But here in Indiana, there are two different facets of guardianship. And a guardian may be appointed to serve in one or both of these roles. So The first and the most typical is guardian over the person. So when an individual is appointed as guardian over the person of a vulnerable individual, they have certain responsibilities like making sure that they are sufficiently acquainted with the protected person and making sure that they maintain sufficient contact with them in order to ensure their continued health and well-being. Have to make sure that they have an adequate place to live, that they receive needed and appropriate medical care, and to the extent possible, encourage and promote the self-reliance and independence of that protected person in the context of those duties. So that's a very brief flyover of guardian over the person. The second facet of guardianship and the legal responsibilities for it is called guardianship over the estate. And so that means if a guardian is managing money on behalf of the protected person, and that's a whole different set of responsibilities of that guardian. And so in that case, if you're appointed guardian over a person's estate or their property, then the guardian is required to locate and maintain all of the property that's owned by that protected person. They're required to file an inventory with the court and periodic accountings, file taxes, do all of the things that an individual typically does in their financial world. So it's a pretty big, major responsibility to undertake, and the accounting requirements are definitely significant. So there's much more administrative work required for guardians over the estate than just guardians over the person.
Well, I don't think I realized that really at all, Stasia.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No, it's a whole thing. You're welcome.
So I think one of our final talking points today is how can we make sure that we're being the best advocates for the people that we're responsible for in these guardianship appointments?
Absolutely. Well, I'm even going to back up 2 steps before that and say that the very best thing that we can do to advocate for our loved ones and for ourselves is to try, to the extent possible, to encourage folks to complete estate planning documents ahead of a point where diminished capacity becomes an issue. Because if you have a healthcare directive in place and or a durable power of attorney in place for finances, many times a guardianship proceeding isn't required at all. So that's my first piece of encouragement. But of course, once you reach the point where a guardianship may be necessary, then it's important to know best ways to advocate for the protected person that you're caring for. And a lot of these, honestly, are really instinctive things that caregivers and guardians do anyway, making sure that you are attending appointments with that person, that you're ensuring their health and well-being, that you possibly have even completed a care kit or something where you can consolidate information for that person so that it's clear, what medications they have, what interactions could happen, who the electrician is for their house, these really basic things. But compiling that information becomes especially important if an individual is not able to do it for themselves. So some of that, quite honestly, is more instinctive than legally related, but I hope that's helpful.
No, it is. It definitely is. And finally, so we've mentioned the documents, the power of attorneys, the what was the other one that you mentioned?
Yeah, a healthcare directive.
So walk us through those couple of ones that we can have in place maybe to avoid the guardianship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you hear nothing else in this segment, hear this, because this is very powerful. And so in the context of estate planning, we always encourage clients to complete both a healthcare directive and a financial or a durable power of attorney. The function of those documents is that an individual, you, me, we can choose who we would want to be able to step in and make healthcare decisions for us in the event that we're not able to do those things for ourselves. That healthcare directive also allows you to make some really specific choices regarding what sort of care you would or would not want if you had a serious health emergency arise. And that document can be put on file with medical providers, kept by the people that you've appointed so that care providers know who they can talk to. The financial or durable power of attorney is sort of similar in nature to a healthcare directive in that it allows you to choose who you would want to be able to step in and help manage your financial world, pay your utilities, file your taxes, talk to Medicare, Social Security, big responsibilities. But by virtue of you choosing who you want to do these things while you have the mental capacity to do that, it typically avoids the need for a legal guardian to be appointed for you. The narrow circumstance in which that guardianship can still be a possibility is sometimes in the context of an elder who is diagnosed with dementia and their mental capacity has declined to the point where they still very much believe that they're making decisions in their best interest, but might be more vulnerable to predatory financial transactions. And so in that limited case, a guardianship still might be appropriate. But yes, if you hear nothing else, here's me on my soapbox strongly encouraging folks to go ahead and get healthcare directives and POAs done, because you're the boss, knowledge is power, and you can avoid a whole lot of time and expense by completing those.
Wonderful. Stasia Demos Mills, how can we reach you again?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find over here. Our website is demosmillslaw.com.
Thank you, Stasia. Thank you. Wonderful to talk with you as always. I will see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Candace.
Okay, thank you. All right, folks, that's it for us this week. But before we go, we want to make sure that you know you can reach Tina at tina@joycehouse.org if you would like to recommend any guests for the show. If you want to say hi, if you would like to ask any questions, you can reach her there, or you can give us a call at 317-254-0828. And as always, we want to thank Cardon & Associates for helping us be here each and every week. With 20 communities owned, operated, or managed in the Midwest, and more than 40 years of senior living experience, Cardon & Associates provides residents with the best senior living options and personalized service. All right, folks, that's it for us this week on Caregiver Crossing. Until next time, take good care of each other.